comes in the name of the Lord.
Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Rabbi Eric Walker. Sustaining a military marriage is hard work, especially when deployments keep a family separated for prolonged periods of time. The strain is intensified when the serving spouse is injured in the field. According to the PTSD Foundation of America, an estimated 2 out of 3 marriages fail for troops suffering from combat trauma. Carlos Evans and Rosemary Evans are well aware of the difficulties, having experienced them personally. In their new book, Standing Together, the inspirational story of a wounded warrior and enduring love, written with our friend Sek Murphy, they share their inspirational story of facing severe injury, rehabilitation, post-traumatic stress disorder, and addiction. Theirs is a true story of hope and courage in the face of astonishing challenges. Sergeant retired Carlos Evans is a minister with the Assemblies of God, USA, a wounded warrior spokesman, and a motivational speaker. Born in Puerto Rico, Carlos was an avid athlete through his high school and college years. At university, he studied theology and was very active in church. When the tragic events of 9/11 occurred, he felt compelled to join the family legacy of service in the United States Marine Corps and originally planned to join as a chaplain. Carlos served 3 tours of duty in Iraq and was assigned to Afghanistan for his 4th deployment. In May of 2010, he was the squad leader on foot patrol when he stepped on an IED. The blast took both of his legs and his left hand. Medically discharged after his rehab at Walter Reed, Carlos served in the Marine Corps for 8 years. Rosemary Evans, also a native of Puerto Rico, is an experienced nurse. She's now a full-time caregiver and student working towards a master's degree in marriage and family from Liberty University. Carlos and Rosemary live in Orlando, Florida with their 2 daughters. Here to share their amazing journey of faith, love, mercy, and grace is Carlos Evans, co-author of Standing Together, the inspirational story of a wounded warrior and enduring love. Carlos Evans, welcome to Revealing the Truth.
Oh, thank you for having us. Thank you very much.
Well, we are honored. I want to thank you, to extend my deepest personal appreciation. My family came to this country to escape the persecution of Eastern Europe, of the pogroms and communism, to come to a country and for you to be called and to answer that call and then to pay the price that you paid and to join together with your wife in this journey of faith is not only an encouragement to those who are the grumblers and complainers because they've got a hangnail, but it's also a testimony to the power of love, grace, and mercy, and to honor and esteem your extremely faithful wife, who, praise God, stood in faith with you and now joins the ranks of caregivers who are overworked, tired, performing miraculous feats. And we actually have on this program the Caregivers Hour once a month with Peter Rosenberger, who takes care of his double amputee wife, Gracie, and has for 36 years. So we're very familiar with much that your wife goes through each and every day as she ministers and takes care of you. Carlos, you're a young boy in Puerto Rico. I don't know how America looks at Puerto Rico and how Puerto Rico looks at America. We know it's not a state, but it's part of the United States. Don't know the educational system, don't know the nationalism or the, I know that I grew up during the Vietnam War, in the Vietnam era, and we didn't want to go. We didn't want to join. We didn't want to fight. We didn't feel the call. We felt that it was an unjust. It was not a place for us to be. We shouldn't be there, and we felt that way, and we handled it wrong. I think we had the right motive, the wrong message. And I've spent the last 35 years apologizing for a generation that treated our veterans who were carrying deep, deep wounds, Agent Orange, many atrocities in the strafing and the mass bombings that took place in Vietnam that we were so opposed to. Our attitudes have changed in many ways. But did you grew up in a faith home? Was it a Catholic home?
No.
Okay.
We were Protestant.
Okay, so because a large part, of course, of the Spanish-speaking countries were settled and harvested and nurtured by the Catholic Church, so that's quite a percentage. But faith was a very important part of your upbringing.
Yes, it was. Very, very. Faith, family, and friends are the foundation of what I live for. Me and my wife actually grew up together, and she was one of the persons that inspired me to grow in faith, to have a relationship with God. So yeah, that was very important in our family.
So she helped lead you to the Lord.
Oh yes, she did. Yes, she did.
So that's gives even more depth and more meaning. So when you decided that you wanted to enlist, this was something that 9/11 inspired a lot of young men who either didn't have real clarity as to what they were going to do with their life, or clarity came.
In my case, clarity came.
Yeah, clarity came with 9/11.
It did. I was in Puerto Rico. I was back home. Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory, Commonwealth, and education system is bilingual. And where I live was close to a naval base at that time. I have a history of family members serving in the Army, Vietnam veterans as well. So when 9/11 came by, in my heart there was a need that I had to do something about that. And in 2004, after I was in Bible college, I went to the recruiting station and joined the Marine Corps. That was my answer.
That was your answer. Now, what part did Rosemary play in this? Is it something you talked to her about, or you did and then you told her?
No, at that time, me and Rosemary were not together at that time. We grew up together. We were kids. But after my third deployment, that's when me and Rosemary got together and we got married. So when I first joined, I was single.
You were single when you went in. And so when, kind of give me the timeline here of events. So 9/11 happens.
Yeah.
You march yourself down out of Bible college to the recruiting station.
Yeah.
You say, I want to enlist in the Marine Corps.
In the Marine Corps, yes.
Yeah, not in the Army, not in the Navy, the Marine Corps. You wanted to be
Marine Corps.
You wanted to be a Marine.
Yes.
Okay, why a Marine?
I was watching the news, and I was watching when the Marines were in Fallujah at that time, and I was watching them, and I saw in their eyes a need, and it just came up to me. I have to be there. I should be there. I should be there. So I joined the Marine Corps in 2004, and I went to Paris Island, and after that I did 3 combat deployments to Iraq. And it was in 2010 where I did my last deployment in Afghanistan.
So, and when did you and Rosemary meet? Not meet again, but meet again.
Oh, in 2009, months 6 months before I deployed.
So you were in good health. You had 3 successful deployments prior to this. How did she feel? Were you engaged? Were you married? Were you dating? What was?
Oh, we were married, and I remember us talking about our deployment, and we were not. I wasn't worried, that something would happen to me. I remember when talking to her about it, I took a copy of my left hand, the hand that I don't have right now, and I took a picture of it, and I gave it to her, and telling her I'm gonna be away from you, but I want you to know that when I'm away from you, you could look at my hand, and this is a reminder of how much I love you and our commitment that we made to each other, to love each other for in the good times and the bad times. So yeah, we talked about it. We didn't think that we were not prepared for what happened to us, but we shared the experience. We prayed about it. We went to church, but we were not expecting to come back home without legs and missing a left hand in a hospital bed.
It's stunning to me that you would take a photocopy of the hand you lost.
Yes. I still think about that, and I'm like, wow, how did that happen? Every time I wrote a letter to Rosemary, I drew my hand and our family in the middle. And I remember I was in the hospital, and she went home to get mail, and in the middle of all that, she saw the picture, of my hand in the mail, and she still has it with her. It's in her house. We still have it, and yeah, it's right there.
So here you've had 3 successful deployments. You're feeling pretty confident. You're now a decorated Marine, 3 tours of duty in a foreign war. So you've got the ribbons, you've got you're starting.
Experience.
Yeah, you've got the experience. You've got the knowledge. What's your rank at this time?
I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps.
Okay, so you moved your way up from the lower what would they call it? From amoeba. When you started out at Paris Island, you were less than you were less than dirt. I mean, what do they tell you? You were less than a speck.
Maggot.
Yeah, less than fly poo. I mean, they start you at the lowest point,
Yeah.
to build you back up. So it's really quite a distance between basic training and
Oh yes. Yes. Very
becoming a
big.
sergeant.
Yes, very big, and much responsibility as well.
Yes. So you get the call for the deployment. This is going to be your 4th deployment, and it's to Afghanistan. So did you have any thoughts about the fact that this was a different engagement than what you had been in?
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a different engagement, but I wasn't afraid, because sometimes we, as Christians, we think that having a relationship with God or being a Christian means that nothing negative can happen to you. So we had this mentality, that everything's gonna be all right, and I knew it was gonna be different, but like I said, I wasn't prepared for what happened, what we had to live.
When you got over there and you assessed the situation in Afghanistan, knowing the politics, knowing the media, knowing what was being reported out of Afghanistan, the longest running engagement that the United States has been in, having had Vietnam era veterans in your family, kind of a similar dialogue going on that they had at that time. How did you feel? Certainly honor bound, duty bound, no question about your commitment, to the Marine Corps, no question, to your commitment to serve your country with valor. But here you were being sent into quite a hostile environment where the playbook was a different playbook. Wasn't the same playbook that you had 3 tours of duty under. It was a new playbook.
Yes. The way I felt, uh, I wanted to go. I actually volunteered to go on this deployment. When I extended, or when I enlisted because I wanted to go on this deployment. So this is something that I wanted to do, and that I don't regret. I don't regret the experience at all. I knew it was going to be different, but it's something that I wanted to do, and I wanted to be with my Marines, and I don't regret it.
Well, I'm incredibly proud of you.
And if I could do it all over again, I'll do it all over again.
Well, and having lost both your legs and the left hand that you photocopied, that you left with your new bride, as a reminder of your commitment of love, what a stunning memory that is today, to see the hand of God work
Exactly.
in that gesture, to really solidify, to memorialize just how deep the commitment was, because the hand's not there anymore, but the hand's still there. That's the God we serve.
Today I'm touching more people in one hand than when I had two. We're leaving more footprints and more people than when I had feet. Because all you need to touch someone is faith and heart, and that's what we live for.
In the events that took place, kind of describe what was going on that day. You deployed out. You were on what, reconnaissance?
Yeah, we were on a mission. It was May 16 over there, 2010. We were on a mission where there were a lot of IEDs explosions in that area. So we were in that mission to find the IEDs, destroy them, and keep the area safe, because the people in the area were getting hit by them. So we left on a foot patrol that day. I'll never forget that day. And when we were done with our mission, we were getting ready to go back home, back to the fob. And I walked about 8 steps, looking at where my Marines were, and I heard an explosion. When I heard the explosion, my life was changed by that explosion. I thought that something happened to one of my Marines, and immediately my body was in shock, so I didn't feel any pain. So my reaction was to look at where are my Marines, and if everybody was safe, because I didn't know that something happened to me at that time.
So you have 2 legs blown off, a hand blown off. You have corpsmen there ministering to you in rapid deployment, rapid response, getting you to the closest medical facility that they get you to. What do you remember?
Oh, what I remember was looking for my Marines, and I was screaming at my corpsman. And when I saw my corpsman right in front of me, and I saw some of my Marines surrounding me, because my reaction was to protect my Marines, because I thought, as the leader, your reaction is to protect your Marines. But now I see my Marines surrounding me, and I see my corpsman in front of me. So when I saw them, I knew something happened to me, but I didn't know that I lost both my legs and my left hand. I remember my corpsman looking at me and telling me everything's gonna be all right. I didn't feel any pain at the time, but then I started feeling a lot of pain, and I was feeling a lot of pain because I had 9 tourniquets in my body to stop the bleeding, but the bleeding didn't stop. So my corpsman took his thumb. He took his thumb and he put it in the femoral artery in my left limb to stop the bleeding, and that's when I started feeling a lot of pain. But it was keeping me alive. I remember talking to one of my other Marines. I was feeling so much pain that I wanted to die at that time. And one of my Marines was telling me, his name is Jesse, he was telling me, "You're not going to die today." He kept asking me, "What's your wife's name?" And I was Rosemary. "What are your daughter's name?" Nairobi, Genesis. And he was repeating to me, "You're going to see them. You're going to go back home. You're going to be with your family." And at that time, I started to pray. I'm like, "Lord, yeah, give me the strength to go back home and to be able to be with my wife and my family." 7 days later, I was in an induced coma, and 7 days later, I woke up in Walter Reed Bethesda Hospital. And when I opened my eyes, my wife Rosemary was in front of me.
So Rosemary writes in the book about the call she received, but she received a call the day before from you that left her uncomfortable, uneasy. Your incident happened on May 16th, but she writes that she received a call on May 15th from you that left her unsettled and worried. What was it about that call that bothered her?
I was that day before I was on a mission in a vehicle, and we ran over a IED on our vehicle. So I remember when I went, the vehicle was destroyed. Everybody was safe, but the vehicle was destroyed. When we went back to the fob, I was nervous if it's different. And I remember that day, I called home. I called Rosemary. I couldn't give her the details of what happened to me, but she, knowing me, she knew there wasn't something right.
So she, of course, prayed,
Mm-hmm.
began to pray, and the very next day, this happens to you.
Yeah.
So you wake up in Walter Reed, your wife is there, she's been prepared, she's been told that you've lost both your legs and your left hand. What does she know at this point?
Well, what she knew at that point is that I lost both of my legs, and yes, she knew that I lost my left hand. Uh, as a nurse, she was more prepared than anyone else of my family members. But that's what she knew. She knew that I lost both my legs. She knew that I lost my left hand. Uh, it was 4 days that passed by after I was injured that she was waiting for her to fly to Washington D.C. Bethesda, because I was in Germany as well. So very nervous. Didn't know what to expect. Uh, when I got there, she was right there in front of me, and she started speaking to me. And when she started speaking to me, I asked her what happened, and she told me what happened to me. The most important thing to me was that when I opened my eyes, she was right there.
So the comfort that you needed to give you the assurance that everything was going to be okay was that when you opened your eyes, you saw your wife.
Yes, it was an answer to my prayer. It wasn't because I was asking the Lord. I'm like, "Lord, just give me one more chance, give me one more time to be with my family." So when I saw her, it was a confirmation that, hey, I'm alive. Yep.
The journey sounds, it's hard to imagine all that you went through in such a compressed period of time, from one day being in a vehicle that's blown up to the next day having your body shattered and parts being ripped away. This was just the beginning of the process, and the process was not an easy one.
No, it wasn't at all. We lived 2 years in the hospital in Walter Reed Bethesda. Went through many surgeries that I lost the count. Uh, We had to go every day to the hospital with my family, my two little girls, and my wife. But my wife, she's dividing her time into, spending time with our daughters and spending time with me. It was very, very, very challenging. I I I was happy to be alive, but I thought that I wasn't gonna be able to be the husband that I promised my wife I was gonna be. I thought I wasn't gonna be able to be the father that I promised my daughters I was gonna be. And I thought I wasn't gonna be able to serve anymore, to serve my country, and to do anything with my life. So I wanted to die. I was going through depression. I was suicidal. I was addicted to narcotics as well. I was suffering from PTSD, and it was very hard, very, very hard.
Well, this is very real. And
Yeah.
for anybody to say, well, to have both your legs blown off and to lose a hand would not cause somebody to be depressed, not cause somebody to want to die. Life would never be the same again. There are only questions, there are no answers. This is down to back. You had accomplished so much, come so far to become that the back to what you were at Paris Island, returning back to the lowest of the low without having a purpose, without having a vision, knowing that you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your daughters, you can't take care of your wife. All these things are going through your mind. God, how can you possibly use this broken vessel? There's nothing that I can do for you. There's nothing I can do for them. I'm better off dead. That's very real, Carlos. That's not something that should give anybody any pause. The real question becomes, where did your strength come from to endure to be sitting here today, being broadcast right now, prime time, in the very place that this event occurred? Prime
Wow.
time in the Middle East. Prime time in the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. We're talking with Carlos Evans, who, along with his wife, Rosemary, along with our good friend Sec Murphy, authored a book called Standing Together, the inspirational story of a wounded warrior and enduring love. Carlos lost both his legs and his left hand in an explosion in Afghanistan. But prior to being deployed, he took a photocopy of his left hand and left it with his wife as assurance that he would be okay. This picture of his left hand, the left hand that he lost, is a reminder of God's grace, that it was God that took that hand, that took his scarred hand and put it into Carlos's hand and Rosemary's hand, and became the hand that the two of them were able to grab a hold of to sustain and to endure a living hell of going through one surgery after another, addiction, depression, PTSD, but coming out on the other side telling the story about amazing grace.
Amen.
And the glory of God. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to hear the rest of this story of standing together with Carlos Evans. We'll be right back. Not everything that makes the headlines has biblical importance, but many events that happen around the world do, and you never hear about them. Igniting a Nation is pleased to teach Revealing Prophecy every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. at the Marriott 280 in Birmingham. We will cover worldwide events and insider information that will connect the dots of what's happening around the world with biblical prophecy. If you happen to miss a class, we'll televise each week's class at 10 o'clock Central Time on ignitinganation.com and all our social media outlets. Copies of the teachings will also be available to purchase on our website at www.ignitinganation.com. The Lord meets you right where you are, and so does Igniting a Nation's new live streaming outlets. You can now watch Revealing the Truth, Revealing the Bible, and Prophecy Revealed simulcast live each Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Vimeo, Periscope, and through our website, www.ignitinganation.com. No matter what device you are using, our program will automatically scale so you won't have to miss a single program. And if you happen to miss an episode, you can always subscribe to the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel and access over 1,000 interviews and never miss your favorite authors, special guests, and topics that interest you the most.
There are lots of ways to see Israel, but nothing compares to seeing the land of the book and the people of the book through the eyes of two Jewish believers who can take you on a journey that will bring the entire Bible to life. When you join Rabbi Eric Walker and his #1 rated tour guide, Edo Canaan, in Israel, you'll experience incredible teachings, first-class accommodations, and actually walk where Jesus walked. You will experience the Bible transforming from black and white into living color, and you will never see the Bible in the same way again. For more information, visit us at www.ignitinganation.com/events.
The Lord contends with what contends with you, and Igniting a Nation is committed to bringing to light each and every issue that faces a believer's life. Our live stream programming and teachings take you on a journey to finding biblical truth from a wide variety of experts who share their insights into a deeper walk with the Lord. We have assembled the most comprehensive panel of experts in the fields of prophecy, caregiving, healing from trauma, shame, and abuse, and so much more. We continue to expand our teachings and programming to meet your needs. We're committed to healing the nations with biblical truth. Visit www.ignitinganation.com to develop a deeper walk with the Lord and start your journey to a transformed life. The Bible commands us to study to show ourselves approved, but most study using Bible study tools and not actually studying the Bible chapter and verse. Igniting a Nation is pleased to present Revealing the Bible, recorded and taught each week before a live audience. We take you deeper into the actual Bible and verse in both Hebrew and English and connect the dots between the Old and New Testament. You can attend our 2 classes in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, or watch the program every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time on ignitinganation.com and all our other simulcast outlets. For more information, visit www.ignitinganation.com/events. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Rabbi Eric Walker, and we're talking with Carlos Evans, who, along with his wife, Rosemary Evans, with our good friend Sek Murphy, authored the book Standing Together, the inspirational story of a wounded warrior and enduring love. Carlos, welcome back to Revealing the Truth.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Carlos, you talked about the challenges of depression, the challenges of going through surgery, the challenges of opioid addiction, because the pain had to be dealt with. The pain doesn't go away. The phantom pain of missing limbs. People don't even understand the concept of you still feel something that's not there, and the brain does not connect with this missing. It still feels like it's there, and it's searching, and it's deeply wounded. It's wounded to the point where the pain cannot be. It can't be overcome. It's a constant. You have ministered to others who have gone through the same experience. You've ministered to others struggling with PTSD, with depression, with addiction. What do you tell them?
Well, I tell them that first you need to recognize that there is something that that's not right, or that there's some area in my life where I need to fix. In my situation, I had people that confronted me because going through everything I was going through with the pain and the experience that I lived, I didn't think that no one will be able to understand what I was going through or had the right to correct me. Because when people tried to correct me in some area of my life, I used to tell them, no, you're not the person who was the fault. You were not the person who's going through my pain, so you cannot correct me. So at the same time, when I'm doing that, I'm pushing away the people that really love me and care for me. So it took a couple people in my life to confront me to say, hey, you're going downhill. Uh, this is what you're doing. And if you don't look for help, you're going to push your family away. You're going to push the people that love you away from your life. So the first thing was recognizing and looking for help.
And being willing to accept
Yes.
that help, to realize that love is expressed in many forms. Sometimes it's not that gentle stroking, oh, my poor baby, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
The truth is you lost your legs and you lost your hand. That's the
Yes.
truth. It's not.
Yes.
It's not going to be okay. The legs
Mm-hmm.
aren't coming back and the hands not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
That we cannot do, but this we can do. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like Paul says, not that I've accomplished this, but this I do, forgetting what's behind.
Yes.
I press on to the prize waiting for me.
And that was something that I had to repeat myself, that the best days of my life were not behind me. The best days of my life were ahead of me. So looking something to live for, looking something to look forward to. Yes. I love that.
You're going to be broken temporarily. You're going
Yeah.
to be healed eternally.
Yes. Yes.
So it almost sounds trite, but you can do this. You don't have much longer.
Yes. Wow.
It's a finite number of years. What is it? 40, maybe 50. Could be maybe 60. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not eternity. For eternity, you'll be healed. For eternity, those legs will be there. For eternity, that hand will return. You'll be completely restored. But what does God want to do with you in this season? Why did God allow this to happen in your life? What has He said to you? How did you see God work in your recovery?
Oh, that's a very good question, because that was my main question. God, why me? God, why this? Why did this happen to me? Why am I going through this? God, where are you? And we understand that God is everywhere, but it's like, God, what are you doing in my life? Because I don't understand it, and I don't feel God, because all I'm feeling is pain right now. And I remember one day, after I left the hospital, I was back home, where I lived in North Carolina, and I was getting ready to go to church, and I look at my wife, and I had this experience at my house. I start crying. She's asking me, why are you crying? And I tell her, I found the answer to my question. Where was God? What was God doing? I know where was God. When I stepped on that IED in Afghanistan, God was there. He was taking care of my Marines. He was taking care of my corpsmen. He was taking care of all of them so they could take care of me. God was with you, Rosemary, with my wife in the hospital, taking care of you so you could take care of me. He was with my mother. He was with my parents. He was with my friends. He was with all the volunteers in the hospital. He was with my doctors. He was with my little girls when I couldn't take care of them. So they were taking care of daddy in a way. So God was never absent from my pain. He was never absent from my tears. He was never absent. He was always there present. Just sometimes we focus on the things that we don't have, and we don't see the blessings that we have around us. So that's where I saw God, and that's where I see Him every day in my life.
Amen. Amen. So this realization began to open up a whole new avenue of thinking. A whole new door had been opened into your spirit.
Yes.
That now God could finally reveal some truths to you, some things He had waiting for you, but you had to go through the door that you had to go through to get to the other side, where everything was really waiting for you. It wasn't until you passed through that point. What did you find on the other side?
Well, before that, I had a breakthrough in my life. It's very important because I remember I was getting ready to give up. I was getting ready to end everything. And I remember going to my wife, Rosemary, to let her know, why don't you continue with your life with the girls and I'll stay here? Because for me, it wasn't fair for her to be with me because I didn't love my body. I didn't love who I was now. In the middle of that conversation, my wife looks at me and she stares at me in the eyes and she says, I'm not a widow and your daughters are not orphans. When the chaplain gave me the news, what happened to you, I prayed to God and I prayed, Lord, bring them back home. And here you are in front of me alive. I love you for the man you are today, and I love you for the man you are going to be tomorrow. And I was like, nah, you can't love me because look at all my wounds. And she shares with me, that's the difference between you and me. I don't see your wounds, I only see your scars. And that shook me. And she explained to me when a patient goes inside a hospital room with an open wound, the doctor sees him, cleans the wound, and goes back home, and he has a scar. So when I see you, I see your scars because I see who's your healer. I see Jesus behind for each one of your scars. So if He gave us the strength to be here, if He healed you, He's gonna give us the strength to go to do whatever we got to do in life. And that was a breakthrough in my life because I could see through her eyes how God was looking at me.
Well, the faithfulness of your wife is really
Yes.
quite extraordinary.
That was a breakthrough.
So, did you realize then or shortly thereafter that this quest that you had because you left Bible college,
Yes, yes.
that maybe you were supposed to finish and start over and answer the call? You had a call during the call, but the call didn't ever go away. God never said, "I've released you from this original call." He just took you into a season.
Yes.
So when did you realize that He was still calling you to ministry?
I always had that fire in my heart. I always used to tell my wife, if I only had the time to pursue, ministry. And I remember that after I was injured, now I'm retired. I am home with my family. People just started asking questions and sharing their stories with us. And we began to share who is Jesus in our life. We began to share who is behind our smile and who's behind our strength. And after that, I remember we're in church in North Carolina, and doors started to open so we could share our story. And one door took open another, and here we are today talking about our book, standing together, sharing it with the world, sharing it with all your followers. I mean, it's doors that the Lord just started to open. We didn't push them. It just started to open because I think everybody relates to pain. Everybody relates to tears. Everybody relates to our stories in different ways or another. So yeah, just doors started opening.
So, as doors began to open, you say that standing has nothing to do with having feet.
No, no. Uh, I the reason I say that was because at a time, I was so focused on being able to walk again, being able to use my prosthetics, uh, and I was putting all my energy in that. But at the same time, I had my wife, I had my daughters. I mean, life was right in front of me. So I came to a realization that standing has nothing to do with walking or having feet. Standing to me is being a good father, being a good husband. Uh, Standing to me is continuing to serve my community. Standing to me is touching people with my heart. Standing to me is when I see someone receiving the gospel of Jesus Christ. So to me, standing doesn't have anything to do with walking on feet or standing in my legs. Today I'm living the best days of my life.
And this has become your testimony. This has become your overcoming, that Jesus came so that you could overcome the
Yes,
world. He overcame for you.
exactly.
And uh, you launched a ministry, uh, touching lives, leaving footprints, and C.R. Evans Ministries. Tell me about the ministries and what you're doing and how you're involving yourself in the lives of others.
What we're doing right now for the last 6 years, we've been traveling the world, Europe, Asia, South America, the Caribbean, Puerto Rico. We've been preaching the gospel in outreach. We've been going to military bases as well, sharing our story with different veterans and different military bases, Army, Marine Corps, all of them, talking about suicidal awareness and talking about who is Jesus in our lives. That is what we're doing right now through our foundation. We help kids and people that are in need of prosthetic limbs. We do peer support and we put them in touch with other programs and we provide prosthetics to them. So we are busy, and that's what led us to share our story with our book, Standing Together. So now we're doing more things that when I had legs and than when I had two hands.
Well, I'm going to introduce you to a name. Try to remember this: Standing with Hope.
Hmm.
Peter Rosenberger has prison workers disassembling. They collect discarded prosthetics and
Hmm.
they dismantle them and inventory all the parts that can be reused, and
Wow.
then they ship them overseas into third world countries where they're reassembled and doctors go and fit these remanufactured prosthetics.
Wow.
And he set it up in a prison in Tennessee, something you might be
Hmm.
able to do there in North
Hmm.
Carolina. It's called Standing with Hope, and it's something that fits right into the exact same picture of providing prosthetics. And he is the expert in caregiving, so he would have a lot to talk with Rosemary about. The reception you're getting, obviously honoring you as a fallen veteran, one who has paid dearly uh, as a young Puerto Rican boy who answered the call of 9/11, who made the choice to enlist, to re-enlist, to re-enlist, and to re-enlist again. And in that fourth re-enlistment, uh, wound up in a situation where you now were being ministered to. Uh, the family, your wife, your children, each day is making a decision to stand together. Each day is making a decision that today is going to be better than yesterday.
Yes.
And let us not paint a perfect picture.
Hmm.
Uh, there are days that are difficult.
Of
Uh,
course. Yes. Yes,
Days that are frustrating for you as you try to put on your prosthetics yourself, as you try to do more. Is there ever a time when you would ever think that I'm going to stop trying so hard? Because
yes. In my situation, every day I wake up and I see that I don't have my legs, that I see my scars. It's a reminder of my experience. So I'm reliving, my experience, all over again. And yes, like I said, there's days that I don't feel like doing anything. There's days that I feel like I'm a little mad. Uh, we we have got to understand this. So what I have to do, we have to do together is I gotta bring all this to the cross. I bring every day. I have to bring my pain and I have to bring my physical limitations and bring them to the cross. And when I bring them to the cross, I'm not a victim anymore. I'm a conqueror. And when I look at Jesus in a glorified body, when he's speaking to Thomas in a glorified body, Jesus is showing his scars. So he was wounded so I could be healed. And he had scars, so I carry my scars as well. My scars have a message and has a purpose and shows the world, who is Jesus in my life. So I have to go through that every day.
every day. You wake up every day in your sleep, I'm sure that you see yourself in a fully equipped.
Yes, with my legs running, doing things that I used to do before. But yes, like I said, I look at myself through the mirror of the Word, and I know that when I look at myself through that mirror, I'm not incomplete. I'm whole in Him. So yeah, yeah.
That's amazing, the story you tell, the part that your wife wrote, very touching and gives a very heartfelt, compassionate side of this story of what it's like for a wife to endure on the other side of this. And so the two of you together are the story. The family togetherness is the story, and God being in the center of it is the story. And it's not a story that's not without deep struggles, not without deep suffering and deep angst and despair. But it is a story of biblical proportion, of the victory that comes in believing in the risen Messiah. That death, oh death, where is your sting? It has no hold on you. You have a promise and a hope of life eternal, and that this situation, this physical condition, is only temporary. It is but in the eyes of the Lord, a batting of the eye, a moment in time. And the question is, what will you do with the gifts He's given you, not with what He's taken from you? And that's the challenge for all. So your motto has become what?
Today I'm touching more people with one hand than when I had two. Today we're leaving more footprints all over the world than when I had feet. Because all you need to touch someone is heart and faith. That's our motto.
That's the motto. Touching lives, leaving footprints, C.R. Evans Ministries. Standing Together is the book, the inspirational story of a wounded warrior and enduring love, the story of Carlos and Rosemary Evans, a story that will touch your heart and will challenge you that even in your situation, not by comparison, but your situation as you stand before God, what will you do with the gifts that He's given you today? And that was the question that Carlos answered on that fateful day for himself. What was he going to do with the gifts that God had left him with, not what God had taken from him? How will you answer that question is what is going to challenge you in this book, Standing Together. Carlos, our love and appreciation to you and to Rosemary, and thank you for who you are and for what you're doing for the kingdom. May God bless you and keep you forever.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
God bless you. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth.